Hey everybody, this is Rich Brooks here for another 30-minute webinar by Flyte New Media. Today we're going to be talking about websites, building an effective website for your small business. These webinars are all content, no fluff. And if you've got questions, I want you to ask them. However, it is hard for me to go back and forth between whether anybody's asking a question and doing the presentation. So as your questions come up, just please feel free to put them into the questions box. I will check them at the end. I've got about half an hour's worth of content today, and I'll be sticking around afterwards to answer any questions you may have. You can ask them now, during the session, or afterwards. So today we are going to be talking about how to build an effective website for your small business. Now, we're not going to be talking about HTML or JavaScript or Ruby on Rails or any of the methods, the behind-the-scenes stuff of building a website. We're going to be looking at it from the eyes of a marketer or an entrepreneur or a small business owner and sharing what you need to know to generate more leads and sales. And really, that's what we're in it for. We want to, be able to get our name out there. We want to get our products out there. We want to meet our audience. We want to have something of value to share with people. And our website is definitely the modern day marketplace. So as always, we use a framework here called the Bare Essentials of Digital Marketing. The Bare Essentials is a 4-piece platform. The B is for build, and this is really where we're going to put our focus today. Build is all about creating a platform that turns visitors into customers, and that is your website. The A is for attract, and how do we drive that qualified traffic to our websites? The R is for retain, or how do we stay in touch with our customers after they've left our site? And the E is for evaluate, or how do we measure and analyze our results? How do we know what's working? Now, in previous 30-minute webinars, we've definitely looked at a lot of things about attraction. We've talked about SEO and social media and digital advertising. We've also looked at some of the things under retain, such as email marketing being the primary source. And then we've also done a couple of back-to-back sessions on Google Analytics, which is all about evaluating what's going on. So if you have any questions on those, I definitely recommend that you check out those recorded webinars as well. Just by attending one of our webinars, you do get access to all those others as well. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Rich Brooks, and I am the president of Flyte New Media. We're a web design and internet marketing company located in Portland, Maine. I'm also the founder of the Agents of Change, a weekly podcast and annual conference that's all about how to reach your ideal customer through search, social, and mobile marketing. We are again having our 7th annual Agents of Change conference it's Thursday, September 20th and Friday, September 21st, 2018. And you can head on over to theagentsofchange.com to get your tickets. We have 400 tickets. We've already sold 100 of them in just the first few weeks. So I certainly assume this is going to sell out. So you definitely want to get on those tickets now. And if you can't make it to Portland, Maine, we do have a virtual pass where you can watch a live feed of the conference and watch every single session on demand after the event is over. I'm also the tech guru on 207, which is an evening news program on the NBC affiliates here in Portland, Maine. And last year I wrote a book called The Lead Machine, The Small Business Guide to Digital Marketing, which kind of goes into a lot of the topics we talk about in these 30-minute webinars. But let's get to building a website that builds your business. Before we even start to build, we have to consider quite a few things. The most important thing, and this is something that, I've worked with hundreds of business. We've built hundreds of websites here at Flyte over the years, and one of the biggest problems that clients have, businesses have when they come in, is they want a website that's all about them. And it makes sense, except it's completely wrong. Your website is not about you. Your website is about everybody who comes to your site, every one of your potential customers. That's who the website needs to be about. And so you need to focus all of your attention on the site on that person. So you need to be very clear on who your audience is. This means you need to understand what their job is, what their needs are, why they're coming to the website, how old they are, how much money they have, how they like to spend their money, what drives them. The more you can be clear on your ideal customer, the better you'll be. Years ago, I interviewed John Lee Dumas about developing a business avatar, and he talks very clearly about developing one singular person that he bases all of his business decisions on. And I would recommend a similar approach. So be very clear about your audience or audiences who are coming to your site. Understand and be clear about what they want to accomplish at your website. Your website is not a simple brochure. They're going to come there. They've got questions. They've got needs. There's something that's driving them to get to your website. Be very clear on what their goals are. And finally, be very clear on how you can help. So when people are coming to your website, go through the process of thinking, of getting in their shoes and saying, what are the causes that are driving them to this website? Why are they here in the first place? Understand the questions they're going to ask, understand their needs, and then make sure that you've put everything in your website so that they can succeed. So there's a number of things that you need to consider as you're building your website. And like I said, we're not going to talk about it from an HTML standpoint, but whether you're going to build your site yourself or whether you're working with a digital agency to help you build your site, there's a few things that are just so critical that I need to mention them. The first is your website absolutely needs to be mobile. Now, more than half of the world's internet traffic has been delivered on a mobile device since 2014. So it's been 4 years now that there's more mobile internet traffic than desktop internet traffic. Here in the US, we're a little bit, I wouldn't say behind the times, but we don't necessarily have as much mobile traffic just because we have a desktop or a laptop at home and at work. And so our desktop and laptop numbers are definitely higher. But every year I see more and more mobile traffic coming to our website, coming to our clients' websites. And, whether it's 10 or 20 or 30 or 50% of your traffic on a mobile device, you wouldn't turn those people away from your storefront. So you want to make sure that your website is mobile friendly, and usually responsive web design is the way to go. You need to make sure that your website is fast. And by fast, I just mean that right now we have the attention span of a gnat, of a goldfish. And so if your website isn't loading very quickly, people will tune out. They will click the back button on the search, whatever it is, they'll go back to the search engines and they're going to start looking somewhere else. So you need to do everything you can to make it fast. And that may mean about stripping down some of the bloat on your pages, about cleaning up the code, about reducing the resolution of your images, whatever it is, putting it on a CDN, hosting it on a good host. This is often where people who are trying to save money on hosting get hurt. These are all things that will impact your usability of your website as well as your search engine visibility. Your site should be nimble. It needs to be built on a content management system. Now, my personal favorite is WordPress. It powers, last I heard, 1/3 of the websites in the entire world, so it's a pretty ubiquitous platform out there. That just means that if you happen to have a falling out with your web developer, or he or she goes out of business, or they get too big for you, or you get too big for them, it's all fine because your platform, your WordPress platform, is independent of them and you can take it to another person. Whatever choice you make when it comes to your platform, you definitely want to make it on a content management system though, so you can continually update it and keep all that content fresh. And lastly, it needs to be designed for results. You really need to, design is in the eye of the beholder, but you need to create a website so it walks people down the funnel, takes them down a path where they learn more, where they feel more comfortable about doing business with you, where they provide some information about them, where they create some contact info or share some contact information with you. These are all critical pieces to your success. Another thing that you absolutely need to do is to build trust almost immediately when people come to your website. Hopefully that wasn't too glitchy and you saw that. That was a failed trust fall. So how do you build trust? There's a great book out there by Robert Cialdini called Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion. And in it, he talks about the 6 weapons of influence, ways that we have more influence over other people than they might expect. And I'm not going to go into all of them, but there are a few here that really make a difference. And one of them is authority. Now, when we see an authority figure, maybe not in today's day and age, but generally we give them the benefit of the doubt. And authority comes in a lot of different sizes and shapes. And if we see a police officer or a sheriff, we might assume that they have a certain amount of authority and we give them respect. A lot of times this comes with badges. We can also borrow the authority of others by using badges. So how does this work on your website? Well, here is a speaker who actually spoke at the Agents of Change last year, Jay Baer, and you can see on his speakers page that these companies love working with Jay. Now, most of us have heard of most, if not all of these: Cisco, Prudential, United Nations, IBM, South by Southwest. The list goes on. So if we're coming to this website and we're trying to vet whether or not we want to hire Jay for a particular project, we can see that he's worked with some of the biggest organizations and companies in the world. Those act like little badges. You might also have different kinds on your website. You might have ones from the Better Business Bureau or perhaps a board certification, whatever it is. But if there are badges, if there is some sort of authority that we can show that we've gone through some certification that means something to our customers, then that's definitely something that should go up on our website. There's also something called social proof. We're social animals, and very often we look to others to understand what our role or what our response should be. If you see a bunch of people looking up, you're going to look up, because why would all those people be looking up? One way that we can tap into this is with testimonials on our website. So when we see other people who perhaps remind us of ourselves on a website, talking about the great experience they had and how good this company is, and maybe how they were unsure about hiring this company, but they're so glad they did. Those things, especially when coupled with photos or even video, can have an incredible impact on our ability to overcome some of the risk aversion we might have and start to trust this company. So consider using different types of social proof on your site. And another critical piece is appearance. Now, we'd like to think that people are going to look deeper than just skin deep, but the bottom line is we're all tuned into appearance. There is a famous PR expert by the name of Michael Levine, and he talks about the Tiffany box theory. And the Tiffany box theory simply states that anything delivered in a Tiffany box has a higher perceived value than something in a plain paper box or no box whatsoever. So think about your own website. Is it a Tiffany box? It is a plain paper box? Is it no box whatsoever? In the real world, this could be the difference between are you using a custom design theme or a really nice theme, or are you maybe just have something that's really off the shelf, looks out of date. Maybe there's a bunch of social media icons there that don't lead anywhere, or maybe they're ones that are not popular or known by our audience. Maybe you have one of those awful Facebook like boxes that are still hanging around out there. Just things that make your site look tacky. The bottom line is, on the internet, anybody could be a fly-by-night company. So you want to do everything you can do to make it look like you've invested in your online presence. And, I bring up this image right here from a company. This is an opinion thing. I think this is a really nice photograph, very clean design, makes me feel comfortable. Maybe not you, but me. Design is a little bit in the eyes of the beholder, but you definitely want to make sure that you're using solid design and that you have a well-defined appearance on your website. So let's talk a little bit about how to organize your website. One of the first things that I recommend people do is review your competition. Now, you definitely don't want to be a Me Too type company by just stealing all your competitors' ideas. But if a lot of your competitors are doing something similar, you're going to want to decide whether or not you want to avoid that because you don't want to be a Me Too company, or that you absolutely need to include it because that's what customers are expecting. Are they, we talked to a client who did a lot of home sales, but he refused to include the MLS listing, so you couldn't search his website for available homes. Well, he wanted to be different from everybody else, but in our opinion, that didn't make any sense because what's the first thing you want to do when you get to a realtor website is check availability. You don't want to call up somebody anymore and have them prepare a list for you. You want to do it yourself. So in that case, it might have been a mistake. On another front, we worked with a prosthodontist who when we looked at a lot of their competitors' websites, one of the things that we kept on seeing in the primary navigation was a button that said, "What is a prosthodontist?" And that cued us into the fact that perhaps a lot of their potential patients don't really know the difference between a dentist and a prosthodontist, and so maybe that's why it's such an important feature. So definitely spend a little bit of time checking out your competition. Obviously, everybody's going to have a home page. It's the default page on your website. The trend these days is to have a nice big hero image like we saw on the previous page, fewer words on the home page. I always used to say put a lot of words even on the home page because, search engines care about this, but the search engines are looking for different cues these days, and you can have a lot of other pages on your site that are deeper with more content. The way I look at a homepage these days is it's almost like a building lobby where you walk in, it's beautiful, takes your breath away, and there's a very clear indication of the different places you can go, perhaps the different floors or the different offices. You're definitely going to want to have product and services pages, and I recommend that you have individual pages for as many of your products and services as you can get away with. Don't have one page that lists all your products and services as a bullet list, or even maybe a really long page that clumps them all together. Google and the other search engines are looking for focus on your content, and so are your users. So to have a drop-down menu that lists all the different types of products or all the different types of services, or at least the categories, depending on how deep your website is going to be good for usability and for your search visibility. I am a big fan of blogs. One of the things I like is a nice, clean website, and a blog is almost like a messy drawer. In other words, you can write content on almost any related subject to your business, put it in the blog, and it doesn't mess up your homepage, it doesn't mess up the navigation. It just goes to this place where search engines and visitors can find that content. It helps keep the rest of your site organized. There's also a lot of search engine optimization benefits to blogging. We've talked about that in the SEO webinar as well as the blogging webinar, and it's a great place to build credibility and build trust with your customers. Then there's the About section, and the About section, you can make this about yourself. You can also still make it about your customers and clients, however. A lot of people make this the second most important page on their website. In fact, some people treat their homepage like an About page. I recommend that when people show up on your homepage, they're probably listening to the radio station WIIFM. What's in it for me? So the homepage should talk more about your customers, your audience, and your About page then can talk more about you, but still in regards to what your audience cares about. I also recommend that if you do have a team, that you include pictures of your team and really personalize this page as well as the rest of your website. And then a contact form, and the contact page should absolutely have a contact form, not an email link. In fact, I tell everybody don't put email addresses on your website. It's a great way to get spam sent to you. A contact form does a much better job of collecting information about your prospects. And, if you just ask them to click on an email link and send you an email, very often they won't give you the information you need. They might not include a phone number or any other pertinent information. Where with a form, you can kind of lead them down the path to let them know what information you need so that you can get back in touch with them. And also include directions. And if you're a local business, it's really important for you to include your address on the contact page. In fact, I might recommend putting it in the footer of every single page on your website. So there's a few places where people kind of don't invest as much time or money as they should in their website, and I just want to mention 3 of them right here. The first one is copywriting. I strongly recommend that unless you are a copywriter, you hire this out. I've actually had some conversations with people lately who didn't really understand what copywriting was, so these are just the words on your page. This is the content that you're writing or that somebody's writing on your page. And the reason why I strongly recommend hiring a copywriter is because although any of us can write, copywriters are skilled in writing persuasive copy that gets people to take action. Yes, it's additional expense, but you can reuse this copy in a number of different places. And depending on your industry, this copy could be good for 5 or 10 years, so it certainly pays for itself. Not only that, it frees you up to go out there and do the rest of your business so you're not taking so much time off from work. Writing 10 pages of copy can easily be a 40-hour project, which is basically taking a week off from work. Is that really where you want to spend your time, or do you want to hire a professional who can write keyword-rich, persuasive copy that ranks well in the search engines and gets clients to take action? It seems like a no-brainer to me. Another place is photography. If you've got the budget for it, hire it out. A lot of times you can get somebody to come by your office, take pictures of you and your staff for as little as $500, depending on where you are in the country. A good photographer can come in and take all different types of photos or go out on location. If you don't have the budget for it, or you don't have the budget for all your photos, you definitely can use stock photography, and we use it in different places on the website, especially our blog, where I'm not going to hire a professional photographer for every single blog post I have. Lately, I've been a big fan of Adobe Stock, which is used to be Dollar Photo Club, but then Adobe bought it out, and I think it's like 10 photos a month for $30, so it's basically $3 a photo, really high-res photos, and I find a lot of unique looking images, so I definitely recommend checking that out if you are looking for stock photography. And the last one is hosting. And a lot of people are looking for the cheapest hosting possible, which is fine until something goes wrong. And something always goes wrong. So I don't recommend hosting companies, and I'm not even going to mention the two that we use right now because that's not my point. We're not a hosting company. We use other companies to do this. But you definitely don't want to be looking for something that's $6, $7, or $10 a month in hosting, because something will go critically wrong, and it'll go wrong on the weekend. I usually tell people to budget anywhere between $30 and $40 a month for a regular website, and maybe $50 or more a month for e-commerce. And certain people need even more security or more backups than that, but that's usually a good place to budget. And I want to kind of wrap up today with some conversion hacks, some things that are going to help you get more visitors and turn them into leads and customers. One thing is this idea of simplicity. So a lot of website owners want to continually add more stuff to their website. They want all these flashing lights and these bells and whistles and scroll bars and all this sort of stuff. But some of the most effective websites out there. In fact, when I ask people, like, what are the websites that you like? The two answers I almost invariably get are Apple and Google, two of the simplest websites out there. Simplicity sells, all right? It's an overwhelming world. People have a very short attention span. And so this is our friends over at Orbit Media Studios, and you get to their website, no bells and whistles, no moving anything. It just says Chicago Web Design and Development Team focused on results. And then you can scroll down and see some examples of their work. Another thing to keep in mind is you can increase or decrease your conversion rates based on where people are looking on your website. So this is a website from Wix, and they've got a homepage here. It all starts with your stunning website. As you can see, there's one man there, and he's staring out. And like all human beings, we first look at his face, and then we look at to where he's looking. And he's looking at a Start Now button, which is really the number one thing they want you to do on this website. So the only thing that I might recommend here is if they had that Start Now button pop a little bit more than they do. Which brings us to choosing an action color. I strongly recommend that you have one color that's for every link and every button as much as you can get away with on your website, and only use that color for those things. So here you see the homepage for Constant Contact, Be a Marketer, and you can see everything is, so a couple things. First of all, it's a simple website. Secondly, you could argue that the guy in the photo is actually looking at the orange button down there. And the third thing is that they've got these orange buttons, and this is really the only warm colors in the page. Everything else is nice, cool, so they kind of pop. And it's the one thing they want you to do. Sign up free or sign up free today. Another critical thing is limiting people's choices at your website. I see this so often, companies making this mistake. I mean, I know Amazon's got a million products and Staples and Best Buy and those, but you're probably not Amazon or Best Buy or Staples. You're you. And you really want to simplify your website because people aren't as familiar with your brand as they are with those other three. So there was a famous study years ago where they brought out, in one of these fancy grocery stores, they brought out 6 flavors of jam, in one of those free tasting stands, and people came over and they tried the jam, and then some of them picked up jars of jam and they went and they bought the jam. Later that day, they switched it out and they put 24 flavors of jam. And it was a much bigger display, and many more people came over, and many more people tried the jam. And interestingly enough, they sold less jam. And it's the paradox of choice. When we're given too many choices, we choose not to choose. So if you give people too many choices, too many links, too many moving images, too many options on any of your pages, but especially your homepage, they're just going to go back. So how do we do this? There's a number of ways that we can limit some choices on our website. So this was a screen grab from 37 Signals that creates some software that we use. And you get to this website and you can see there's 3 choices: Premium, Plus, and Basic. And of course you're looking first at Plus. It's their most popular plan. Now it's probably their most popular plan because it's center, it's bigger, and they're telling us it's the most popular plan. I could decide that I'm a small group and go for Basic, or I could say I'm a power user and go for Premium, but still, they've told me what the best choice is for me, most likely. And this is really important because if they just laid out all 3 equally, it's very likely that people like me would take a look at them and be like, I'm not sure what I'm going to go for, so I think I'm going to come back later and think about it. Except that we never come back. This is something that was popularized in the book Nudge, which I recommend you guys check out, but it also is basically just a way of giving people the best possible plan and getting them to take action. So some other tricks or some other things to keep in mind for increasing conversions on your website: make sure that your phone is not hidden. It shouldn't be at the bottom of your contact page. It should be at the top right corner of every single page on your website. As I mentioned before, use a contact form, not just an email link. A well-performing contact form, like the kind we have on our websites, will ask people for their name, their phone number, their email address. In fact, they'll require those 3 things, but then they'll also capture things like perhaps company name, street address, when you're thinking of making a buying decision, how you heard of us, or any other information you think is pertinent. Just don't overdo it. Once that person fills out the contact form, they're taken to a thank you page where maybe there's an upsell or some more information. We've also asked them to join our mailing list. And then that information is automatically entered into our database so that there are no mistakes and it doesn't take anybody any time to add that content in. And then an email is sent out to all the pertinent people on the team so somebody can get back to that person quickly. Now, isn't that a lot more powerful than just having an email link? You should definitely have an email opt-in. One of my favorite digital marketing tools is email marketing, and so you should be asking people all over the place to join your email list. If you're interested in learning more, I definitely recommend you check out the email marketing 30-minute webinar we did. But every small business, every entrepreneur, and every marketer would do better by spending more time building their email list. And finally, have calls to action. Have a call to action at the bottom of every page and possibly multiple places within a page. And a call to action simply is just asking for the business or asking them to take the most logical step. Too often I've gone to a website and I've read something that I find interesting and I get to the bottom of the page and it's the bottom of the page. And there's really no discussion of what I should do next. So what I recommend doing is at the bottom of every single page, tell the person what they want, what they should do next. You may think it's obvious, but they may not. They've spent 99.999% of their time on the internet, not on your website. So tell them to click on that link to figure out their mortgage on your calculator, or click on the link for a free consult, or click on a link for a certain download, or whatever it is that you think is the next logical step on the path to them taking care of whatever their problem was that you can help them with. So I hope that's been helpful. Again, really, if you're looking to generate more leads online, you want to use the bare essentials of digital marketing: build, attract, retain, and evaluate. And that's the content that we have for today. So I'm going to go check and see if anybody had any questions for today. If you did come in late, we are recording this, so this will be available to you. So for anybody who's looking to access the previously recorded webinars. We have sent out emails when you sign up for our email list, but when I send out the email recap for this presentation, I'll include a link to that section of the website so you can get into there. So Matt has a question. Contact form location on the main page, product page. I certainly think you want to have it on the contact page, because contact, I always think, should be a primary navigation item. And as far as product page or contact page or home page rather, it just depends on what you're looking to do. Sometimes asking people for their information on the home page can seem a little bit aggressive, but it really just depends on what your product or service is. We've definitely seen it work on product pages as well. A lot of times you can just build it automatically. Like if you're using a content management system like WordPress, you can actually build it into your pages so it'll automatically appear at the bottom of every single one of your pages. And I have seen conversion rates go up when you do have some sort of contact form at the bottom of your page. And you can actually change them up so you know when the person's email comes in or their form comes in, which page they actually filled out that form on. And we've done that when we were having a brand new website on one of our clients' websites that had we're selling conveyor belts and conveyor belt parts, that putting a contact form at the bottom of each page or an inquiry form really increased conversion rates. Same for the email subscribe. Same question for the email subscribe button. I put an email subscribe button in the footer of every single page on our website, and I always recommend to our clients that they do the same. But I also don't stop there. I have sometimes in the middle of a blog, I'll have what's called a value add. So it's like, let's say that you're reading a blog post on 10 things to keep in mind when building a website. And then I might have something about like, here's your website checklist that you can download. And to download it, it's an email registration, which gets them on our email list. Also in our contact form, we ask them if they want to sign up for our email list. Sometimes we'll do pop-ups, like many of you might have seen when you came to our website. So again, these are multiple different ways of getting people to opt into your email newsletter. On our blog, we have on the blog homepage a request to join our mailing list. On every single page on our blog in the right-hand column, we have the same. Gail asks, what is the maximum number of pages a service business should have? I don't think there is a maximum number. I think it should be the exact number of services you have. So I would have, an example that I've given before is, if you're a psychologist and maybe you do couples therapy and you do child psychology and you also see teenagers and you also do groups, that's at least 4 different pages that you want to have where you kind of talk about those sort of things and you go into detail, obviously not about your patients, but about the type of therapy you do in practice. And although there's no magic number on how long a page should be, I will say that most search engine experts say that you need at least 300 to 500 words on a page to even be picked up. For the search engines to not consider it to be what's called thin content. So I would definitely try and add as much. In general, search engines and people are looking for a lot of quality content that's deep. So the more time and energy you can spend on really building out these pages, the better off you're going to be. Does your call to action need to be direct? We're using jump in because our business is called Splash. Is that misleading? Toby, that's a great question. And I would probably say that I would do an A/B split test on that. I mean, I do like the idea of jump in. I'd want it to make sure that it looks like a button or a link so there's no question about it. But I might do some tests, either an official A/B split test where randomly 2 different button names are shown, and you can do that through a few different platforms. And then you just measure to see after a while which one has a higher click-through rate. And if they're the same, then great, it doesn't matter. But if one is the obvious winner, then you want to go with that one. So that definitely could be it. Or you could have something that's, since jump in is a little bit of a branding call, then maybe you might have a longer button that says jump in, join our mailing list now, or something to that effect. I see a few thank yous in here too. You're welcome. It does look like we've come to the end of the questions. I'll say that this has been Great for me. I hope it's been helpful for you. Please, when I send you out the email in the next 24 to 48 hours with the recording and link and everything else, let me know if there's any other content or sessions that you'd like to see us do. We're always looking for new ideas of things that are going to serve you. Thanks very much for your time today. Have a great day.